Wealth is closer than you think. It is not hiding in the stock markets or behind the doors of banks. It is already pulsing within you, silent, luminous, waiting. The simplest path is not outside, it is within. A path walked not with your feet, but with your awareness. A path that bends reality as you awaken to the power that has always been yours. What if you could step into this secret corridor now? What if, by listening, you could unlock a door that changes everything? Stay until the final word, and this path, ancient, simple, eternal, will reveal itself to you. Introduction. You are not here by chance. Something has called you, a whisper in the chambers of your soul, leading you to this moment. You may have searched for wealth in numbers, in strategies, in the shifting sands of fortune, yet deep down, you know there must be something more, something simpler, something truer. Imagine walking through a vast temple, its pillars carved with golden light, its corridors endless. At the heart of this temple lies not a treasure chest, not a vault, but a mirror. And in that mirror, you see yourself, not as you have known yourself, burdened by doubt, clouded by lack, but as the eternal being of power and radiance you truly are. The path to wealth is not complicated because the universe itself is not complicated. It is as simple as reflection, as simple as alignment, as simple as becoming the frequency of what you seek. The rivers of wealth are already flowing, invisible currents of abundance moving through the unseen fabric of life. Those who tune themselves to these rivers appear fortunate, successful, blessed, but it is not luck, it is law. And you are about to remember that law. This journey is not a lecture, it is an initiation. With every word, imagine you are stepping deeper into a sacred chamber of your own soul, each sentence opening a hidden door. Behind these doors are truths you have always known but long forgotten. Truths that will not only change how you see money, but how you see yourself. Picture wealth not as coins or digits, but as light. Every thought you think sends a current into the unseen. Every feeling you embody radiates a frequency. And the universe, vast, infinite, precise, echoes it back. To change your wealth, you must first change your inner song. The simplest path is not to fight, not to chase, not to exhaust yourself. It is to awaken to the fact that wealth is consciousness clothed in form. In this audiobook, you will walk a journey of remembrance. Across 15 chapters, we will travel through ancient parables, modern revelations, and sacred practices designed to rewire your inner world. You will learn how wealth is magnetized not through struggle, but through certainty. How abundance is not earned, but revealed. And how the simplest path to wealth is the most profound of all, the path of inner transformation. As you listen, let your mind loosen. Let your body relax. Let these words sink into the soil of your subconscious, where seeds of wealth and freedom already wait to grow. You are not here to learn something new. You are here to remember what was always yours. The temple doors are opening now. The mirror is before you. Step closer, for the journey has already begun. Chapter 1. The Door Within. The door to wealth is not made of wood or stone. It is not guarded by locks or keys. It waits inside you, invisible, until the moment you remember it exists. Every fortune, every empire, every dream that has ever come alive began with a single act. One mind daring to turn inward, to imagine, to feel, to believe. That is the door. Wealth has been made to appear complicated. Schools, markets, experts all insist you must climb ladders, solve puzzles, run tirelessly toward an elusive finish line. Yet when you look closely, you see how many who chase remain empty-handed, while some, quietly, almost mysteriously, draw wealth as if it were air. This is the paradox. This is the mystery. And this is where the simplest path reveals itself. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine you are standing in a vast city at night. Towers glitter, roads are lit with neon, and people rush endlessly, each carrying the weight of survival on their shoulders. You feel the noise of ambition in the air, restless, unending. But then, down a small street, hidden from sight, you find a quiet door. No one else notices it, yet you do. And as you place your hand upon it, you feel a current of warmth, as though this door recognizes you. That door is within you, and it leads to a chamber where the laws of wealth are not about effort, but about energy. We must begin here. Wealth is not what you earn, it is what you embody. It does not begin with money, it begins with mind. To align with wealth is to know that thought precedes form and feeling shapes reality. The door opens the moment you dare to feel rich before riches appear, to see abundance before it takes shape, to speak as one who already holds what they desire. There is a law older than the pyramids, inscribed not on stone tablets, but in the fabric of existence. As within, so without. Your outer world is not a cause, it is a mirror. If you have struggled, it is not a punishment. It is only a reflection of a belief once planted, often without your knowing. But the mirror can be changed the instant you shift what it reflects. Consider this parable. There was once a farmer who lived on barren land. For years he cursed the soil, saying, "This land gives me nothing." Each day he walked across the field, seeing only stones, dust, and weeds. One day an old traveler stopped and asked him, "What do you see here?" The farmer replied, "Nothing but death." The traveler smiled gently and said, "The soil always gives you what you plant, even if you do not plant consciously. You have sown curses into it, and so it has multiplied them for you. Try blessing it instead." The farmer, though skeptical, began each morning to walk the land, whispering, "This soil is fertile. This field is gold. Here, great harvests grow." At first, nothing changed, but in time, new sprouts appeared. Seasons turned. The barren field became lush with fruit. The soil is your consciousness. Whatever seeds you drop into it, whether words of lack or visions of plenty, will grow. The simplest path to wealth is not to fight the soil, not to dig endlessly, but to plant the right seeds. The great masters of every age knew this. Jesus spoke of faith as a mustard seed that moves mountains. The Hermetic sages taught that all is mind. The Vedic seers declared that the universe itself is woven of thought, and today, quantum physicists whisper of fields that respond to observation, as though science itself is catching up with the ancient truth. Wealth is energy made visible through your inner command. Pause and ask yourself, what have you been planting? When you think of money, do you see lack or overflow? Do you feel stress or ease? Do you speak of not enough, or do you affirm that everything flows to me in perfect rhythm? For your words are incantations, your feelings are magnets, and your inner state is the sculptor of your destiny. This is not fantasy. Look to those who rise seemingly out of nowhere, the child from a poor village who becomes a leader, the artist once ignored who becomes celebrated worldwide. They walked through the same world as everyone else, yet they saw a different reflection. They planted seeds others could not see. They dared to treat the invisible as real. And so the visible bowed to them. But here lies the challenge. Your mind will resist. It will say, I do not see money. I do not feel wealth. How can I pretend? Yet this is not pretense. This is creation. To feel wealthy before the evidence appears is the very act that calls the evidence into being. You are not lying to yourself. You are commanding the soil. Think of an actor stepping onto a stage. Before the curtain rises, they are not yet the character. But as they breathe, embody, and live the role, the audience believes, and reality shifts for those moments. In the same way, when you play the role of wealth inwardly, the universe becomes your audience, compelled to deliver the script you embody. The simplest path is this: turn inward daily. Stand before the mirror of your soul and declare, I am wealthy. I am rich in opportunities. I am aligned with abundance. Do not say it once, but breathe it until your very cells hum with it. Wealth will not be able to resist you, for you will have become the frequency of wealth itself. Now, let us make this more than words. Let us anchor it into practice. Sacred practice, the inner door. Tonight, when you are alone, sit in silence for 5 minutes. Close your eyes and picture a golden door within your chest. Place your hand over your heart and whisper, this is the door to wealth, and I walk through it now. See the door open. Step inside with your imagination. Inside, see yourself already wealthy. Not in vague ways, but vividly. Your home, your bank account, your freedom, your ease. Feel it, live it. Stay in that chamber until the feelings grow stronger than doubt. Do this daily. The more often you open the door, the more natural it will feel. And soon, the mirror of your outer world will be unable to resist reflecting what you have become. The path is simple, and it begins now. Chapter 2: The River of Light. There is a river running through the universe. It does not appear on maps, and no satellite can capture it. Yet it flows ceaselessly, carrying the essence of abundance, love, and life itself. This river is the current of wealth, and you were born to step into it. Too often, humanity stands at its banks, thirsty, while the waters of plenty rush past unseen. People build walls of worry, dams of doubt, fences of fear, and then wonder why their lives feel dry. The truth is not that the river has abandoned them, but that they have forgotten how to enter it. The simplest path to wealth is to remember the river, to feel its waters flowing even now through your own being, waiting to be recognized. Imagine this. You are standing in a desert, parched, weary, searching desperately for water. Around you, the horizon shimmers with heat. You dig in the sand, frantic, finding only dust. But just beneath the surface, unseen by your eyes, a river runs. If only you knew where to look, if only you stopped digging in panic and instead placed your ear to the earth, you would hear its song. This is how most live. They toil endlessly, chasing wealth as though it were scarce, believing they must exhaust themselves to find it. But wealth is not hidden in deserts. It is flowing beneath your very feet, right now. Wealth is not a reward. It is a resonance. It does not arrive because you deserve it or because you have worked the hardest. It arrives because you have tuned yourself to its frequency. Just as a radio does not create the music, but reveals the station it aligns with, your consciousness does not create wealth out of thin air. It aligns with the eternal river that was always there. Pause and consider. When you feel grateful, joyful, alive, what happens? Suddenly, Opportunities seem to appear. People call. Doors open. Ideas spark. This is not coincidence. This is alignment. You have, for those moments, stepped into the current. But when you feel anxious, bitter, hopeless, what happens? The world closes, possibilities vanish, and life seems barren. Not because the river has dried up, but because you turned your back on its waters. There is a story told of a man who lived beside a great river but never learned to swim. Each day he fetched water in small jars, carrying them with great struggle to his home. The weight bent his back, his arms grew weary, and still he lived thirsty. One evening he saw children laughing as they dove into the river, floating effortlessly, carried by the current. Astonished, he asked, "How do you do this?" They replied simply, "We trust the water." The man realized that all his life he had treated the river as an enemy, as something to conquer or control, when it had always been ready to carry him with ease. So too is wealth. It does not need to be carried in jars of effort. It waits for you to step in, to trust its current, to let yourself be borne by its flow. Now you may ask, how do I step into the river? The answer is astonishingly simple, by surrendering to the state of already having. Wealth does not flow to those who grasp. It flows to those who relax into certainty. The river does not respond to desperation, but to ease. Think of times in your life when something came easily. A friendship, a sudden opportunity, a gift. Notice how you were not straining for it. You were open, aligned, allowing. That is the secret. The ancient texts whisper the same truth. The Tao Te Ching speaks of water as the softest yet most powerful force, conquering all without resistance. Hermetic teachings remind us that vibration governs all form and that wealth is a vibration we can choose. Even the psalmist declared, "My cup runneth over," not because he earned it, but because he trusted the source to fill it endlessly. And here lies the paradox. The harder you try to force wealth, the further it drifts. But the moment you embody the state of already being wealthy, you are carried effortlessly into its stream. Let us ground this in a living example. Consider the life of a woman named Clara. For years she worked tirelessly in a job she hated, always in debt, always afraid. She believed that if she worked harder, she would finally be free. But the harder she worked, the more trapped she felt. One day, exhausted, she decided to stop. She sat quietly in her small room and said to herself, "If I had everything I needed right now, how would I feel?" At first, the question seemed absurd, but she closed her eyes and imagined it anyway. She pictured paying her bills with ease. She saw herself walking calmly through her day, smiling, relaxed. She felt the relief of freedom, the joy of enough. For the first time in years, she breathed deeply. Nothing changed that day on the outside. But inside, something shifted. The next week, she was invited to a gathering where she met someone who offered her a new position, one aligned with her passion, paying more than she had ever earned. Within a year, her debts were gone. Within 2, she had started her own practice, helping others align with the same principles. Clara did not fight harder. She simply stepped into the river. This is the law. The river is always flowing, but you must step into it through state, not struggle. And here is the practice to anchor it. Sacred practice, entering the river. Find a quiet space. Sit comfortably and close your eyes. Imagine a vast golden river flowing before you, its waters shimmering with light. See it as the current of abundance, endless and eternal. Now imagine yourself standing at its edge. You place one foot in, then the other. Feel the water surround you, lifting you, carrying you. You do not swim, you do not fight, you float. Whisper softly, I trust the river. I am carried by abundance. Stay in this vision for several minutes. Each time you feel fear or lack in daily life, return to this practice. Step back into the river. Let it carry you. Over time, you will notice how life begins to shift. Opportunities flow, money arrives, not by force, but by current. The simplest path to wealth is not to build a dam or fight the current. It is to enter the river and let it carry you to shores you once believed impossible. Chapter 3. The Frequency of Gold. Gold is not merely a metal, it is a frequency, a living song that the universe hums. Those who hear it, those who match it, seem to attract wealth effortlessly. Those who cannot hear it wander in silence, searching for treasures that slip away. To understand the simplest path to wealth, you must understand this. Money is energy condensed into form. Before it appears as paper or digital numbers, it vibrates as possibility. Wealth has always been less about work and more about wavelength. Picture a tuning fork. Strike it, and another fork of the same pitch nearby begins to sing. Not because it touched, not because effort was applied, but because resonance is law. This is the secret of wealth. It does not come because you chase it. It comes because you vibrate with it. But what does it mean to vibrate with wealth? It means to dwell in the emotional states that wealth belongs to: ease, certainty, joy, freedom. These are not rewards of wealth. They are the very doors through which wealth enters. So many wait until their bank accounts are full to feel secure. They wait until success arrives before they allow themselves joy. But here lies the paradox. Until you feel secure, wealth cannot find you. Until you live joyfully, money does not sing your way. For the universe mirrors what you embody, not what you beg for. Imagine a man tuning a radio. He wants to hear the station of wealth, yet he remains locked on the static of worry. He twists the dial desperately, asking, "Why can I not hear the song?" But until he chooses the right frequency, no matter his desire, all he will hear is noise. The simplest path is not to shout louder into the static. It is to align the dial. There is a parable from the East. A king once decreed that gold must be gathered for the palace treasury. His servants searched far and wide, bringing coins and jewels, yet still the king felt poor. A wise sage visited and asked, "Why do you seek wealth outside when your palace itself rests upon veins of gold?" The servants had never thought to look beneath their own feet. They had walked upon abundance every day, blind to it. When they finally dug beneath the palace floor, the kingdom overflowed with riches beyond measure. So it is with you. The gold lies not in distant lands, but within your own state of being. Beneath your doubts, beneath your fears, a treasure waits. The frequency of gold, humming in your soul, ready to rise the moment you tune yourself to it. You may ask, how do I shift into this frequency when my outer world shows me lack? The answer is this: you must dare to reverse the order. Do not wait for wealth to arrive before you feel wealthy. Feel wealthy now, and wealth must arrive. This is not delusion, it is law. The sages called it faith. The mystics called it certainty. The moderns may call it the law of assumption, but the essence is the same. You live from the end, and reality rearranges itself to match you. Think of an actor once more. When they step into character, they do not wait for the costume to arrive before embodying the role. They become the role first, and the stage follows. In the same way, when you assume the frequency of wealth through gratitude, joy, certainty, the stage of your life cannot help but decorate itself with abundance. Now, let me share with you a true story. There was a woman named Aisha raised in poverty. For years, she carried shame about money, believing it was always scarce, always beyond reach. Yet, one day she heard a teacher say, "Money is energy. Become the energy, and money will follow." At first, she scoffed, but something in her stirred. She began each morning to stand before her mirror and say aloud, "I am gold. I am wealth itself." She walked through her day with her head high, choosing small acts of abundance, treating herself with dignity, giving a little even when she had little, speaking with the tone of someone who already owned her freedom. Within months, opportunities opened. A new job appeared. Creative projects turned profitable. In time, she rose from scarcity into overflow. She had not fought harder than before. She had tuned herself differently. This is the law at work. The external bends when the internal sings the right note, but the mind resists. It says, "I do not see the money, therefore I cannot feel wealthy." Yet that is like saying, "I cannot strike the tuning fork until I already hear the music." No, the fork must be struck first. Then the resonance comes. You must dare to feel it before it appears. The frequency of gold is gratitude. It is trust. It is joy without condition. Each time you enter those states, you are striking the fork of your being, sending out a signal that wealth cannot resist. And wealth, being obedient, begins to move. Pause now and consider your own life. What is your dominant frequency? Is it anxiety, lack, striving, or is it gratitude, abundance, ease? This is not judgment, it is awareness. For awareness is the first step to tuning. You cannot change the song until you notice what you have been humming. The simplest path to wealth is not to master every business strategy, not to know every market shift, but to master the inner dial. Once your frequency is tuned, strategies align themselves, opportunities magnetize, and resources flow in ways you could not plan. The mystics were right. You do not chase wealth, you become wealth, and wealth chases you. Sacred practice, the gold frequency. Tonight, find a quiet space, sit with your spine straight, and close your eyes. Place your hand over your heart. Whisper softly, "I am gold. I am wealth itself." Say it 3 times. Now imagine a golden light glowing in your chest, expanding outward. See it filling the room, the house, the sky. As it expands, picture coins, opportunities, and rivers of abundance flowing effortlessly toward you, drawn to your frequency. Stay with this vision for several minutes. Throughout your day, whenever doubt arises, pause and repeat within, "I am gold, I am wealth." Let it anchor you back to the frequency. Over time, you will notice life bending toward you in unexpected ways, as though the world itself has begun to sing your song. For gold is not only metal, it is the vibration you choose, and once you choose it, you cannot be kept from wealth. Chapter 4. The Invisible Architect. There is an architect who designs your life. You cannot see him with your eyes, nor hear him with your ears. Yet he shapes every wall you lean against, every path you walk, every fortune you encounter. That architect is your imagination. Before a coin touches your palm, before an opportunity arrives, before a single event unfolds, your imagination has already drawn it in the unseen. Wealth is not built in banks first, It is built in the mind. The simplest path to wealth is to honor the architect within you. Think of the great cities of the world. Skyscrapers piercing the clouds, bridges spanning impossible distances, palaces glittering with light. None of these appeared by accident. Before a stone was laid, before steel was forged, someone saw it in the quiet chambers of their imagination. Someone dared to dream what others thought impossible. They drew it in silence, then watched reality bow to their inner vision. So too is your life. If you walk through it without imagination, you live in buildings designed by others. You inherit structures of belief from family, from culture, from fear, and then wonder why the walls feel narrow, why the ceilings feel low. But when you claim your architect within, you realize you can redraw the blueprint. You can design wealth, freedom, and abundance as surely as an architect designs a palace. But here is the mystery. Most people use imagination only to build prisons. They imagine debt, and debt arrives. They imagine rejection, and rejection finds them. They rehearse scenarios of failure, lack, embarrassment, and wonder why life reflects these walls back at them. The architect does not judge. He simply builds whatever you sketch. The Hermetic law states, "All is mind." Imagination is the womb of creation, the blueprint of all that will ever take form. Jesus said, "As you believe, so shall it be done unto you." Belief is simply imagination lived as truth. Consider this parable. A poor man lived in a small village. Each day he dreamt only of survival, a little bread, a little shelter, a little warmth. His imagination painted only scraps, and scraps were all he knew. One night he had a dream. In it, he walked into a palace of infinite rooms, each filled with treasures, each bearing his name. When he awoke, something shifted. He began to imagine himself not as a beggar, but as an heir. He pictured meals of plenty, clothes of elegance, friendships of power. He did this not once, but daily. Villagers laughed, calling him delusional. Yet within years, opportunities opened. Merchants sought him, leaders invited him, and wealth flowed where once there was none. He had discovered the architect and dared to use him. The difference between poverty and prosperity is not location. It is not education. It is imagination. One sketches limits, the other sketches abundance. One repeats the blueprint of lack, the other dares to design anew. But the mind resists. It says, "I cannot imagine wealth when I am surrounded by lack. How can I see palaces when I live in a hut?" Yet imagination is not bound by sight. That is its gift. It is the one faculty that allows you to transcend the present and command the future. If you use it only to repeat what you see, you have chained your architect, but if you use it to create beyond your present, you have set him free. Look to history. Every breakthrough, every fortune, every empire began in imagination. The Wright brothers saw flight before a plane ever left the earth. Edison saw light before the bulb glowed. Jobs saw an iPhone before a single piece of glass was shaped. Wealth is no different. You must see it, feel it, live it inwardly before you can hold it outwardly. Now let me give you a living illustration. There was a man named Daniel. He worked in an office, buried in paperwork, exhausted and unfulfilled. Each night he complained of bills and debt. His imagination was a prison cell, repeating the bars of lack. One evening, he stumbled upon the teaching that imagination is reality's architect. Skeptical but curious, he decided to test it. Each night before sleep, he imagined walking into a bank, opening his account, and seeing the numbers overflowing. He imagined the feeling of freedom, the joy of writing checks without fear. He felt the relief as though it were real. At first, his mind mocked him, saying, "This is fantasy." But he persisted. Night after night, he entered the inner palace, rehearsing wealth. Weeks passed. Then, unexpectedly, his company offered him a promotion with double pay. Months later, a side project blossomed into a thriving business. Within 2 years, he was living the very scene he had imagined nightly. The architect had been set free. This is the simplest path: to imagine now what you desire, as though it were already yours. To live inwardly as the person you long to be, until the outer world has no choice but to conform. But understand this: imagination is not idle daydreaming. It is not wistful longing. True imagination is conviction. It is the rehearsal of a scene until it imprints upon your subconscious as fact. Once planted, the subconscious commands reality itself. Neville Goddard taught this truth with piercing clarity. Imagination creates reality. Not sometimes, not maybe, always. Your present life is the sum of past imaginations you have dwelt upon, and your future will be nothing more or less than the imaginations you choose today. Pause and ask yourself, what blueprint are you giving the architect? What walls have you unconsciously designed? Are you sketching ceilings of lack, corridors of debt, doorways of limitation? Or are you daring to design palaces of wealth, bridges of opportunity, gardens of ease? The simplest path to wealth is to stop outsourcing your design. Pick up the pen of imagination and sketch boldly. Sacred practice, the blueprint. Tonight, before sleep, close your eyes and choose one scene that represents wealth for you. Perhaps it is opening your bank account and seeing overflow. Perhaps it is receiving keys to a new home. Perhaps it is walking through a life of ease and freedom. Do not imagine it as happening one day. Imagine it as already done. Step into the scene. Feel the emotions, the relief, the joy, the freedom. Let your body rest in that feeling. Fall asleep inside the scene. Do this nightly. The subconscious receives what is repeated with emotion and persistence. And once the subconscious accepts it, reality must obey. The architect is waiting. Hand him the blueprint of wealth and watch the walls of your life rearrange themselves. Chapter 5. The Law of Reflection. Every mirror tells the truth. It does not argue. It does not lie. It simply reflects what stands before it. So too does your reality. What you see in your outer world is not punishment, not accident, not fate. It is reflection, the echo of the images and assumptions you carry within. Wealth, or the lack of it, is nothing more than the mirror showing you what you have believed. The simplest path to wealth is not to polish the mirror or curse it for showing you lack. It is to change the image you bring before it. When you stand before a mirror and frown, the reflection frowns back. If you scowl, the image scowls. If you smile, the mirror smiles instantly. You do not command the reflection to change. You change yourself, and the reflection follows. This is the same law that governs your life. And yet, most people spend their lives shouting at mirrors. They see lack in their finances and curse the world. They see bills piling and despair at fate. They work harder and harder at the level of reflection, never realizing the source lies not in the glass, but in themselves. This is why wealth often seems cruelly uneven. Some who labor endlessly remain in scarcity, while others who walk lightly seem to magnetize fortune. It is not effort alone that decides, it is reflection. Those who align inwardly with abundance see it mirrored outwardly. Those who align with fear see only more to fear. The Hermetic law states, as within, so without, as above, so below. This is not metaphor, it is law. Your inner state is projected upon the canvas of reality with unerring accuracy. Let me tell you a story. There was once a merchant named Harun who lived in a bustling city. He worked tirelessly, opening his shop each dawn and closing it late at night. Yet despite his labor, he barely survived. Each evening he muttered to himself, "I am cursed with poverty. This city gives me nothing." His words became the silent prayer he repeated daily. One day, an old mystic entered his shop. He listened as Harun complained, then led him to a mirror in the corner. "What do you see?" asked the mystic. Harun frowned. "I see a weary man, broken by labor." The mystic nodded. "And what does the mirror do? It shows you only what you bring. So too does life. You call yourself cursed, and the world obeys. Try smiling." Reluctantly, Harun smiled. Instantly, the reflection smiled back. The mystic whispered, "Change here, and the world changes there." Harun took the lesson to heart. Each morning, before opening his shop, he stood before the mirror and declared, "I am wealthy. Customers love me. Gold flows to me easily." At first, he felt foolish. But over time, his words changed his posture, his tone, his energy. People noticed. Customers began to linger, to return, to bring friends. Within a year, Harun's shop was one of the busiest in the city. He had discovered the law of reflection. This story is yours. Your reality is the mirror. It does not conspire against you. It does not favor another. It reflects faithfully what you assume. But here lies the challenge. Most reflections are unconscious. You may consciously say, "I want wealth," while inwardly carrying an image of scarcity. The mirror responds to the dominant image, not the fleeting wish. To change reality, you must change the inner picture that you dwell upon most often. Pause and ask yourself, what image of yourself do you carry when you think of money? Do you see yourself as one who struggles, as one always behind? Or do you see yourself as one who naturally attracts wealth, who is at ease, who is supported by life? Whatever you see, the mirror obeys. The simplest path to wealth is not to demand the mirror show you something different. It is to alter the image you bring to it. This is why affirmations, visualizations, and inner rehearsals matter. They are not childish games. They are acts of re-scripting the inner image until the reflection must change. Consider another example. A woman named Sophia grew up believing money was dangerous. She heard her parents fight about bills, saw businesses collapse, felt shame whenever money was mentioned. As an adult, she longed for abundance, but unconsciously carried an image of money as pain. Her mirror reflected accordingly. Every time she earned, emergencies drained it away. One day, she decided to change the image. Each evening, she closed her eyes and pictured money as golden light, soft, supportive healing. She imagined it flowing gently into her life, bringing joy, not conflict. At first, her old beliefs resisted, shouting, "This is false." But she persisted. Weeks turned to months. Slowly, her outer life shifted. Opportunities arrived. Debts cleared. She began to see money not as a curse, but as a blessing. Her reflection had changed. because her inner picture had changed. This is the secret. Wealth is not forced. It is reflected. You are not chasing something outside. You are adjusting the image within until the mirror bows to it. But how do you change an inner picture that has been etched by years of struggle? The answer is repetition with feeling. The subconscious accepts what is impressed upon it consistently and emotionally. The mirror does not resist. It simply waits for a new image strong enough to override the old one. This is why Neville Goddard taught the power of living in the end. To see yourself already as the one you desire to be, to feel it vividly, to dwell in that scene until it feels natural. Once the subconscious accepts it, the reflection must follow. Imagine your life as a hall of mirrors. At every turn, reality reflects you back to yourself. If you dislike the reflection, you do not smash the glass. You soften your gaze, you change your stance. You choose a new expression, and instantly the mirror agrees. So too with wealth. If you see lack, do not curse the glass, alter the inner stance. Assume wealth, and soon the mirrors of your life, your bank account, your opportunities, your relationships will reflect wealth back to you. Sacred practice, the mirror work. Tonight, stand before a mirror. Look directly into your own eyes. At first, you may see doubt, fatigue, fear. That is fine. Do not look away. Instead, whisper softly, I am wealth. I am abundance. I am freedom. Repeat it slowly, watching your reflection as you speak. Now imagine that the one looking back at you is already wealthy, radiant, confident, free. See the sparkle in their eyes, the calm in their smile. Feel that version of you looking back with certainty. Stay until you feel the shift, however small. Do this daily. Over time, the image in the glass will change. And as it changes, so too will the world around you. Remember, every mirror tells the truth. Change the image, and the reflection must obey. Chapter 6. The Garden of Wealth. Wealth is a garden. It grows in silence beneath the soil of your mind. Every thought is a seed. Every feeling is water. Every belief is sunlight or shadow. The simplest path to wealth is not to chase the fruit, but to tend the garden. Close your eyes for a moment and picture a vast field. Some patches are barren, some bloom with flowers, and some sprout thorny weeds. This field is your consciousness. What you see in your outer world is nothing more than the harvest of seeds once planted in that inner soil. If you find weeds of debt, thorns of lack, or barren fields of missed opportunity, it is not because life has denied you. It is because the soil has obediently grown whatever seeds were dropped into it. Words of worry, thoughts of limitation, feelings of fear, the soil never resists. It multiplies what is given to it, without judgment, without delay. Yet here lies the good news. The soil does not hold grudges. It does not care what was planted before. The moment you choose new seeds, the field begins to change. Perhaps not instantly, but inevitably. This is why every master, prophet, and sage spoke of sowing, reaping, planting. Jesus declared, "The kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed." The Buddha taught the law of karma, cause and effect like seed and fruit. Hermetic teachers whispered of mentalism, the truth that thought precedes all form. And modern science, with its studies of neuroplasticity and quantum observation, confirms what the ancients knew. What you dwell upon, you grow. So let us examine your garden. What seeds are you sowing daily? When you wake and say, "I never have enough," that is a seed. When you sigh at bills and whisper, "Money slips through my fingers," that is a seed. When you envy another's wealth and declare, "That will never be me," that is a seed. And the soil, faithful and fertile, says, "Yes, Master," and grows accordingly. But when you rise and declare, "I am provided for, wealth flows easily, life supports me in all ways," those too are seeds. The soil obeys just as faithfully. You may not see the sprouts overnight, but seeds planted with persistence always bloom. Let me share with you a story. There was once a farmer who grew weary of his barren land. He envied his neighbor, whose fields overflowed with grain and fruit. One day, he stormed to the neighbor's house and demanded, "Why does your land flourish while mine dies?" The neighbor smiled and replied, "Because I plant what I desire, not what I fear." The farmer scoffed, but the neighbor continued, "Each morning I walk my field and bless it. I see stalks of wheat in my mind before they rise. I thank the soil in advance. I trust the season. You, my friend, curse your land daily, muttering that it is barren. And so, the soil gives you barrenness." The farmer left in silence, ashamed. That night, he decided to change. Instead of cursing, he blessed. Instead of fearing, he thanked. At first, nothing changed. Days passed, weeks passed. But slowly, new shoots appeared. Seasons turned, and in time his fields too became abundant. He had discovered the law of the garden. This parable is simple, yet it contains the very heart of wealth creation. The world is not punishing you. The soil of consciousness is neutral. It will grow weeds as easily as roses, lack as easily as abundance. The difference lies in your seeds. The simplest path to wealth is not to wrestle with the harvest you dislike, but to plant a new crop with intention. But here is the challenge. Most people water weeds more than roses. They dwell endlessly on worry, rehearse lack, complain with passion, feed fear with emotion. Each act is water on the weeds. Then they wonder why roses do not bloom. If you wish to see wealth, you must water wealth. You must fertilize abundance with gratitude, tend to prosperity with certainty, weed out doubt before it overtakes the field. Think of your mind as a garden you walk through daily. Do you leave it wild, letting any thought grow unchecked? Or do you prune, plant, and care? For wealth is not luck, it is gardening. Consider a modern example. A man named Raphael was buried in debt. Every day he repeated to himself, "I am drowning." He spoke it, felt it, believed it. His soil, faithful as ever, grew more reasons for him to drown. Then, exhausted, he decided to test another way. Each morning, he sat for 5 minutes and repeated instead, "I am rising, I am supported, money flows to me." At first it felt hollow, but he persisted. Slowly, his thoughts shifted. He began to notice small opportunities, freelance projects, discounts, unexpected help. Within a year, his debts were shrinking. Within 3, he was thriving. The soil had simply obeyed his new seeds. You may think, but what about reality? What about the bills I see right now? Yes, reality is real. But remember, reality is yesterday's harvest. What you see now is the fruit of seeds already planted. Do not curse the harvest. Tend to the next planting. Change your seeds, and tomorrow cannot help but change. There is also a deeper mystery here. The subconscious mind is the soil, and it is moved not by idle words, but by feeling. If you say, "I am rich," but feel fear, the soil hears fear. If you say, "I am abundant," but feel lack, the soil hears lack. To plant true seeds, you must unite words with emotion. Speak them until you feel them. Repeat them until they become natural. Once the subconscious accepts the feeling, the soil begins its work. This is why gratitude is so powerful. Gratitude is the emotion of already having. Each time you give thanks, even for small things, you are planting wealth. Gratitude tells the soil, he already lives in abundance. Grow more. And the soil obeys. Sacred practice, the planting. Each morning before speaking to the world, speak to your garden. Sit quietly and place your hand over your chest. Whisper 3 seeds. I am supported. I am wealthy. I am free. Say them slowly, breathing until you feel them resonate. Now, picture yourself walking through a golden field, crops swaying, fruit heavy on the branches. See yourself harvesting abundance. Smile as though you are already full. Carry this vision into your day. And each time fear arises, remind yourself it is only a weed. Pull it out gently and replace it with a seed of wealth. Do this daily. Over weeks, you will notice sprouts. Over months, harvests. Over years, an endless garden of abundance. For the law is certain, you reap what you sow. Sow abundance, and abundance is inevitable. Chapter 7. The Silence That Creates. Wealth is not born in noise. It does not spring from frantic effort, nor from the clamor of worry. It is conceived in silence, in the still chambers of your being, where imagination whispers and certainty takes root. The simplest path to wealth is to return to silence, for in silence the universe speaks. Most people believe wealth is built in markets, in negotiations, in the constant grind of action. They rush endlessly, their calendars full, their minds noisy, always chasing, never arriving. Yet beneath this restless ocean, there is a still current, the place where wealth truly begins. Silence is the womb of creation. All things, before they take form, gestate in the invisible. The tree sleeps in the seed. The song sleeps in the silence of the musician's mind. The masterpiece sleeps in the blank canvas before the painter's hand moves. In the same way, wealth sleeps in the silence of your consciousness before it awakens as form. When you are still, you begin to hear what noise has always hidden, the truth that abundance is not outside of you, but within you. Imagine a pond at dawn. If you throw stones into it, the surface ripples wildly, distorting the reflection. But when the water is calm, it mirrors the sky perfectly, revealing stars, clouds, light. Your mind is this pond. When filled with restless thoughts, its surface is distorted, unable to reflect wealth clearly. But in silence, when the ripples cease, it mirrors the infinite abundance of the universe. This is why the ancients prized stillness. The Vedic sages retreated to forests not to escape the world, but to hear the silent song beneath it. The Hermetic mystics spoke of the great silence where all creation begins. Even the psalmist declared, "Be still and know that I am God." In stillness, the divine blueprint of abundance reveals itself. But silence is not empty. It is alive. It hums with frequency. It is in silence that ideas are born, opportunities conceived, visions received. When you quiet the noise of doubt, inspiration rises like a whisper, and that whisper often carries the key to wealth. Let me share with you a story. There was once a man named Elias who worked endlessly. He believed that if he could outwork everyone, wealth would eventually be his. But despite his effort, success eluded him. He slept little, ate poorly, and filled every waking moment with tasks. One day, in exhaustion, he collapsed beneath a tree. For the first time in years, he was still. In that silence, he noticed the sound of wind through the leaves, the rhythm of his own breath, the peace he had long forgotten. Then, like a sudden flash, an idea came, simple, elegant, powerful. It was a solution to a problem that had haunted his work for years. Acting on that idea changed his business, his fortune, his life. Later he realized all the years of noise had hidden the very answer he sought. Silence gave it to him in an instant. This parable holds a profound truth. You do not create wealth by multiplying noise, but by entering silence where inspiration waits. But here lies the difficulty. Silence frightens many. To be still is to face oneself. To turn inward is to meet the doubts, fears, and shadows long avoided. This is why so many prefer constant activity. It numbs them from hearing the inner voice. Yet it is that inner voice that carries the map to wealth. The simplest path requires courage. The courage to be still, to listen, to trust what arises. Consider modern innovators. Many confess that their greatest ideas came not in meetings or conferences, but in quiet moments. While walking, bathing, resting, Newton saw the law of gravity not in a laboratory, but in the silent fall of an apple. Archimedes cried, "Eureka!" not in effort, but in the quiet of a bath. These moments of silence unlocked fortunes of knowledge and invention that transformed the world. So too with your wealth. You need not strain endlessly. You need only to enter the silence where the blueprint already exists. Now, let us bring this home. Think of your own life. How much time do you give to silence? Do you rise and instantly fill your mind with the noise of news, messages, and worries? Do you drown your inner architect with endless chatter? If so, it is no wonder the reflection of wealth feels scattered. To step onto the simplest path, you must reclaim silence as your ally. 10 minutes of stillness each day can transform your entire relationship with wealth. For in that silence you can plant seeds without distraction, water them with calm, and hear the whispers of inspiration that show you where to walk next. Let me give you another story, one from the desert mystics. A disciple once asked his master, "How can I receive guidance for prosperity? I pray, I chant, I strive, yet no answer comes." The master led him to a still pond at dusk and said, "Look into the water." The disciple looked, but the surface was muddy from their footsteps. "I see nothing," he said. They waited in silence. Minutes passed. Slowly, the water stilled. Stars began to appear, reflected perfectly. "Now," said the master, "you see the heavens. So too is your mind. When restless, it reflects nothing. When still, it reflects the infinite." The disciple understood. From that day, he spent time daily in silence. Ideas began to arrive. He followed them faithfully and became prosperous. This is the essence of chapter 7. Silence is not absence, it is the gateway. Wealth is not truly created in transactions, but in inspiration, and inspiration is born in stillness. When you quiet the surface, the depths speak. Sacred practice, the 10 minutes of gold. Each day, carve out 10 minutes for silence. No phone, no distractions, no noise. Sit comfortably and close your eyes. Focus on your breath. When thoughts arise, let them pass like clouds. Do not chase them. Do not resist them. Let them drift. Now, once the mind has stilled, imagine yourself sitting in a temple of light. Golden rivers flow around you. Whisper gently, "In silence, I hear wealth." Repeat it until your body relaxes. Stay until you feel a shift, even if small, a sense of calm, a whisper of possibility. Do this daily. At first, you may feel restless, but with persistence, silence will open, and in that opening, you will hear the guidance you have been missing. Wealth does not come from frantic noise, it comes from the silence that creates. Chapter 8. The Currency of Faith. Wealth is not measured first in coins or paper. Its true currency is faith. Faith is the unseen credit line of the universe, the invisible gold that precedes every fortune. The simplest path to wealth is to spend faith before money. Faith is not blind belief. It is not wishful thinking. It is conviction, the inner knowing that what you desire already exists, already belongs to you, even before your senses confirm it. Faith is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. Without it, you wander in circles. With it, the universe bends to meet you. Most people reverse the order. They demand to see before they believe. They wait for evidence before they relax, for money before they feel wealthy, for proof before they allow certainty. Yet the law of reflection, the law of vibration, the law of mind, all declare the same thing. Reality mirrors your faith, not your doubt. To wait for proof is to wait forever. To assume without proof is to command the mirror to shift. Faith is the currency that buys wealth from the unseen storehouse of the universe. Imagine a marketplace where nothing can be purchased with coins, only with trust. The vendor asks, "Do you believe you already own this?" If you answer yes, the item appears in your hands. If you hesitate, the stall remains empty. This is how reality works. Faith is your purchasing power. Let me share with you a story. There was once a woman named Miriam who longed for a home of her own. For years she saved, but each time she approached her goal, expenses rose and her dream slipped further away. One evening, she heard a teacher say, "Faith is the true down payment." At first she laughed, but something in her stirred. She began to act as though the home were already hers. She thanked the universe daily for it. She imagined herself walking its halls, decorating its rooms, inviting friends for meals. She even bought a small welcome mat with the word "home" embroidered upon it, placing it outside her modest apartment door. Months later, in what seemed like coincidence, a relative offered her a low-interest loan and a house appeared on the market at a price within reach. Within weeks, she signed the papers. As she stood at the threshold, she placed the little mat by the door. Tears filled her eyes. She realized she had walked into a house she had already owned in faith. This is the law. Faith precedes form. The great traditions echo this truth. In the Bible, faith is declared the evidence of things not seen. Jesus often asked, "Do you believe you have received?" and promised, "It shall be yours." In Hermetic teaching, faith is the inner alignment that precedes vibration. In Vedic texts, Shraddha, trust, devotion, is considered the seed of every manifestation. Even in modern science, the placebo effect stands as testimony. Belief changes biology, shaping results regardless of outer evidence. Faith is the original wealth. Without it, even riches feel fragile. With it, even emptiness feels full. But here lies the paradox. Most people exercise faith in the wrong direction. They have unshakable faith in lack. They believe deeply in their limitations. They expect failure, rehearse disappointment, assume scarcity, and the universe, faithful mirror that it is, reflects accordingly. To walk the simplest path, you must redirect your faith. Not into fear, but into wealth, not into lack, but into abundance, not into delay, but into immediacy. Consider a parable of two farmers. Both prayed for rain. One prayed and then sat idly, saying, "When the skies prove themselves, I will believe." The other prayed, then went out and plowed his field, preparing the soil as though the rain were already falling. Which farmer showed faith, and which one received the harvest? Faith is action aligned with conviction. It is not passive waiting, but living as though the unseen is already seen. Think of your own life. Where are you spending faith? Are you spending it on worry, rehearsing fears, believing in your insufficiency? Or are you spending it on wealth, rehearsing success, assuming provision? Faith is spent daily, whether you notice it or not. The question is only, what currency are you issuing into the world? Let me give you a modern example. A young entrepreneur named Malik dreamed of starting a business. Everyone around him said it was impossible. He lacked money, connections, and experience. Yet Malik carried one wealth others did not: faith. Each morning, he dressed as though he were already the successful owner he envisioned. He spoke with confidence. He introduced himself not as trying, but as building. Slowly, allies appeared. Investors arrived. Customers supported him. Within 5 years, he had created the very business that once lived only in his inner conviction. Malik often said, "I spent faith before I spent money." That was the difference. But the mind resists. It says, "How can I believe what I do not see?" Yet this is precisely the point. Faith is not about seeing what already island that requires no power. Faith is about seeing what will be until it becomes. You may think of it this way. When an architect designs a building, the blueprint is drawn long before the structure rises. The builder does not wait to see the skyscraper before believing in it. He trusts the blueprint and begins. Faith is your blueprint. Once drawn within, reality must follow. Now pause and look inward. If faith is currency, how much are you spending? Do you hoard it, waiting for proof before you release it? Or do you spend it lavishly, declaring abundance even when your outer world has not caught up? The simplest path to wealth is to treat faith as your first and most valuable currency. Spend it boldly, and life pays you back with interest. Sacred practice, the faith transaction. Tonight, take one desire, something clear, something you long for. Sit in silence and imagine standing before the universe as though before a grand merchant. In your hand, you hold the coin of faith. Whisper, "I already own this in spirit. I thank you for its arrival." See the merchant smile and hand you the item, the house, the opportunity, the freedom. Accept it in your imagination. Hold it. Feel it as though real. Now go about your life as one who has already received. Walk with the posture of wealth. Speak with the certainty of provision. Each time doubt arises, remind yourself, the purchase has already been made in faith. The delivery is on its way. Practice this daily. Soon, you will see that faith is not abstract. It is the most practical wealth of all, for it compels the world to obey. Wealth is not only coins, it is conviction. And faith is the currency that writes every fortune. Chapter 9. The Invisible Agreement. Every life is shaped by contracts unseen. Not contracts written on paper with ink, but contracts written in thought, sealed in feeling, and enforced by the law of the universe. These are the invisible agreements you make with reality. And wealth, or the absence of it, always follows the terms. You may not remember signing them, but you have. Each belief is an agreement. Each assumption is a contract. When you say, "Money is hard to earn," you agree with struggle. When you whisper, "I never get ahead," you sign your name under lack. When you affirm, "I am supported," "I am wealthy," "I am provided for," you sign an agreement with abundance. The simplest path to wealth is to rewrite your agreements. Let us look at this more closely. Your subconscious is the lawyer of your soul. It enforces every agreement you make, whether you are conscious of it or not. If you once agreed, perhaps in childhood, that money causes pain, your subconscious files that contract away and works tirelessly to honor it, blocking wealth whenever it approaches. If you agreed that others prosper, but not me, the subconscious ensures that pattern repeats faithfully, as a good lawyer defends a binding contract. Yet here is the great secret. No contract is permanent. What was written can be torn. What was signed can be rewritten. The simplest path is to recognize which contracts no longer serve you and replace them with new ones. Agreements of prosperity, freedom, ease. Imagine standing in a great hall. Before you lies a long scroll filled with words written across your life. Debts, limits, fears, struggles. At the top, in bold letters, is your signature. You feel heavy as you read it, but then a light shines and you realize the ink is not indelible. It is written in thought, and thought can be changed. You pick up a new pen, the pen of intention, and begin to cross out the lines, writing instead, "I am abundant, wealth flows to me, I am free." As you write, the hall shifts. The scroll glows. The old words vanish, replaced by the new. This is what it means to rewrite your agreement. Let me tell you a story. There was once a man named Jonah. He grew up hearing his father repeat, "We are not the kind of people who get rich. Wealth is for others." Without realizing it, Jonah signed this contract in his heart. As an adult, no matter what he tried, his finances crumbled. Promotions passed him by, businesses failed, opportunities slipped through his fingers. One day, in despair, he sought a teacher. The teacher asked him, "What agreement have you signed with life?" Jonah was puzzled. The teacher pressed further. "Deep down, what do you believe life has promised you?" Jonah realized his inner contract said, "I will always struggle." The teacher then said, "Tear it up, write a new one." That night, Jonah sat in silence. He declared aloud, "I release the contract of struggle. I agree now to wealth, ease, abundance." He repeated it daily until it felt true. Slowly, things shifted. He was offered a new position with higher pay. Unexpected income arrived. He began to see himself differently, not as one destined for lack, but as one who had rewritten the terms. Within years, his life reflected the new contract. This is not fantasy. This is law. Agreements made within always become law without. Think of the subconscious like a faithful clerk. It does not argue, it does not decide, it simply enforces. If you hand it a contract of lack, it enforces lack. If you hand it a contract of wealth, it enforces wealth. The question is, what documents are you submitting daily? Now pause and ask yourself, what are your agreements with money? Do you believe money comes only with suffering? Do you believe wealth corrupts? Do you believe you must sacrifice health, joy, or love to attain it? Each of these beliefs is an agreement, and life enforces it with precision, but you can change them. The law of assumption, the law of faith, the law of reflection. They all bend to the agreements you consciously choose. There is an ancient parable from India. A man was chained, believing the iron links bound him for life. For decades he sat despairing, convinced of his captivity. One day a sage visited and examined the chains. With a laugh, the sage revealed the shackles had never been locked. The man's belief was the only key holding them closed. When he stood and walked, the chains fell away. So it is with agreements. You may think you are bound by lack, but the contract is unlocked. You need only to stand, to declare new terms, and the old dissolves. Consider this in your daily life. If you find yourself saying, "I cannot afford this," ask, "Is this a truth or an agreement?" If you mutter, "It always goes wrong for me," ask, "Is this fact or is this a contract I've signed without awareness?" The moment you recognize it, you gain the power to change it. But the mind resists. It says, "How can I rewrite my agreement when my outer world shows lack?" Yet the outer world is simply the old contract being fulfilled. The new contract must be written first, then reality adjusts. This is why persistence is essential. You must hold to the new agreement until the old expires. Let me give you another story. A woman named Clara constantly told her friends, "I am terrible with money." It became her identity, her agreement. Unsurprisingly, she lived paycheck to paycheck, losing track of every dollar. One day, she decided to stop saying it. She replaced the words with, "I am learning to master money. I am aligned with wealth." At first, it felt false, but she repeated it day after day. Soon, she began tracking her finances with ease. She made wiser decisions. Opportunities to earn more appeared. Within a few years, she had savings for the first time in her life. The universe had enforced her new contract. The simplest path to wealth is not to fight your outer world, but to tear up the old inner contracts and draft new ones. Sacred practice, the contract rewrite. Find a quiet space. Take a sheet of paper. At the top, write old agreements. Beneath it, list the limiting beliefs you have held about money. Write them honestly. "I must struggle. Money is scarce. Wealth is not for me." Once the list is complete, take a breath. Say aloud, "These agreements are no longer mine. I release them now." Then, tear the paper. Now take a fresh sheet. At the top, write new agreements. Beneath it, write empowering truths. "I am wealthy. Money flows with ease. Abundance is natural to me." Sign your name at the bottom as though signing a contract with the universe. Place this paper somewhere visible. Read it daily. Feel it. Live it. Do this, and soon your subconscious clerk will enforce the new terms. Life itself will honor your contract. Wealth is not an accident, it is an agreement, and you hold the pen. Chapter 10. The Law of Circulation. Wealth is not meant to be hoarded like stagnant water. It is a river, flowing, moving, alive. When it circulates, it multiplies. When it is dammed by fear, it withers. The simplest path to wealth is to join the circulation, to become a vessel through which abundance flows. Look at nature. The oceans breathe in and out through tides. The seasons give and take. Trees receive sunlight and return oxygen. Rivers flow to lakes, lakes to rivers, rains return to oceans, completing the circle. Nothing in nature clings, nothing hoards. All things circulate, and in circulation, life thrives. Money, too, is part of this great rhythm. It is not a lifeless object, it is energy. It flows through hands, through businesses, through ideas. The more freely it moves, the more it expands. When you treat money as water that must flow, you align with the eternal law of circulation. When you grasp, fear, and cling, you cut yourself off from the current. This is why some, even with vast wealth, live in fear, feeling lack. Their hoarding blocks circulation, and their inner state mirrors scarcity. Meanwhile, others with modest means live richly, because they allow circulation. They give freely, receive freely, and move with the rhythm of abundance. Imagine a stream. If you scoop water into a jar and hide it away, it stagnates, grows foul, loses life. But if you let it flow, the stream remains fresh, endless, alive. So too is wealth. When you grip it with fear, it dies in your hands. When you let it flow, more always comes. There is a parable told of a king who feared famine. He ordered all citizens to bring their grain and lock it in the palace. This way, we will never run out, he said. The people obeyed, but in time, the hoarded grain rotted, rats infested the palace, and hunger spread across the land. Years later, a wise queen reversed the decree. She opened the storehouses, giving seeds back to the people. Grain was planted, harvests returned, and abundance overflowed once more. The kingdom prospered, not by hoarding, but by circulation. This is the law. Money, like grain, must be planted, shared, moved. Hoarding from fear breeds decay. Circulation from faith breeds wealth. But let us go deeper. Circulation is not only about giving money, it is about the flow of energy in all things. When you give gratitude, you receive joy. When you give kindness, you receive trust. When you give wealth, even in small amounts, you signal to the universe that you live in abundance, and the universe mirrors accordingly. Fear says, "If I give, I will have less." Faith says, "If I give, I prove I already have, and more will return." Which do you live by? Consider this true story. A man named Robert lived with constant anxiety about money. He saved every penny, never shared, and lived in perpetual fear of loss. Though he had a modest income, he always felt poor. One day, out of desperation, he decided to test a principle he had heard, to give a little, even when you feel you have little. He donated a small portion of his income each week, reluctantly at first. But something strange happened. He noticed he felt lighter. Opportunities appeared. Clients paid him on time. Within a year, his income had doubled. He said later, "The money I gave was like unlocking a gate. It taught me to trust circulation, and the flow returned tenfold." This is why so many spiritual traditions emphasize giving, not as charity alone, but as alignment with circulation. The tithe in the Bible, the concept of dana in Buddhism, the practice of zakat in Islam. Each one is rooted in the same truth. To give is to stay in flow. But giving is not loss, it is planting. The farmer who casts seeds into the earth does not mourn them as gone. He knows they return multiplied. The same law applies to money. When you release it in trust, it returns, often in ways unexpected. Yet many resist. They say, "I will give when I have enough." But this is like saying, "I will breathe out once I have more air." Circulation requires both inhale and exhale. To wait is to suffocate. To give now, in faith, is to prove the current is alive within you. The simplest path to wealth, then, is to enter circulation, to receive with gratitude, to give with trust, to live as a vessel, not a dam. Another story illustrates this. A young woman named Elena was drowning in bills. Every instinct told her to hold tightly to every dollar. But she felt inspired to try something radical. She began setting aside 5% of her income, no matter how small, for giving. Sometimes it went to a friend in need, sometimes to a stranger, sometimes to a cause she loved. Each time, she released it with joy. At first, nothing changed. But after months, she noticed she no longer lived in constant fear. Her energy shifted, new opportunities arose. An unexpected raise, a freelance project. Within 2 years, she was debt-free. She often said, "The moment I began to circulate money, money began to circulate back to me." So, let us turn this teaching inward. What is your relationship with circulation? Do you cling? Do you hoard? Do you fear? Or do you give, trust, allow? Wealth is not only the sum of what you hold, it is the rhythm of what flows through you. When you see yourself as a vessel of circulation, you align with the very nature of the universe. The tide goes out, but it always returns. The more freely you let go, the more freely life gives back. Sacred practice, the circle of wealth. This week, choose a small portion of your money, even if it feels insignificant. Decide consciously to circulate it. Give it with joy, not as loss, but as planting. Whisper as you release it, "I live in circulation. Wealth flows to me and through me." Then notice. Notice the ease in your heart. Notice the small openings of opportunity. Notice the flow that begins to return. Repeat this weekly. The amount does not matter. What matters is the state, the trust, the willingness to stay in rhythm. Over time, you will see the circle always completes itself. What leaves in faith returns multiplied. Wealth is not stagnant, it is alive. The simplest path is to let it circulate, and in circulation, to discover abundance without end. Chapter 11. The Power of Identity. You do not get wealth. You become wealth. Money does not flow to what you chase. It flows to who you are. The simplest path to wealth is not to change your bank account first, but to change the self-image you carry in silence. Identity is the root of manifestation. Every action, every habit, every decision flows from the story you tell yourself about who you are. If you believe you are a struggler, your life mirrors struggle. If you see yourself as unlucky, circumstances conspire to fulfill it. If you see yourself as wealthy, free, supported, the world bends to reflect that image. Your life cannot outgrow your self-concept. This is why some, even with sudden fortune, lose it quickly. Their identity remains poor, so the wealth slips away. And others, though starting with nothing, rise steadily into fortune because their identity has shifted. They no longer see themselves as poor. Think of it this way. Identity is like the thermostat of your financial life. No matter what external changes occur, the setting always pulls you back to its level. If your inner thermostat is set to scarcity, even a windfall will be lost until you return to normal. If your thermostat is set to abundance, even setbacks are temporary. You rise back to wealth because your inner setting demands it. To walk the simplest path, you must reset the thermostat of your identity. There is a parable of a beggar who lived outside a temple. Each day he stretched his hands, asking for coins, convinced he was destined to be poor. One day a monk approached and said, "Do you know what you sit upon?" The beggar shook his head. The monk pointed to the ground. When the beggar dug, he discovered a chest of jewels buried beneath him, left long ago by travelers. For years he had begged on top of treasure. His identity as a beggar had blinded him to his wealth. This story is true for many. You sit upon infinite treasure, the wealth of imagination, of faith, of alignment. Yet because you see yourself as lacking, you beg in a world already rich. Identity is subtle. It hides in the phrases you use. Do you say, "I'm just not good with money"? That is identity. Do you say, "People like me never get ahead"? That is identity. Do you say, "I attract opportunities easily"? That too is identity. And identity, once repeated, becomes law. Let me share with you a modern example. A man named Adrian grew up hearing, "We're not the kind of people who succeed." He carried that phrase like a tattoo on his soul. Though talented, he sabotaged himself again and again. Jobs failed, relationships collapsed, debts followed. One day, a mentor told him, "Your life is not failing. Your identity island changed the root, and the branches will bloom." Adrian began to affirm daily, "I am successful. I am worthy of wealth. I belong to abundance." At first it felt false, but slowly it shaped his decisions. He stopped turning down opportunities. He spoke with more confidence. Within years, his identity had shifted from failure to success, and his outer life followed. The simplest path to wealth is to become the one who already has it. But here lies the challenge. The old identity clings. It whispers, "This is who you've always been. This is your truth." Yet identity is not fixed. It is a costume, worn and reworn until it feels like skin. And just as you can change clothes, you can change identity. Neville Goddard taught, "Dare to assume you are what you want to be. Not tomorrow, not someday, now." Identity must be lived inwardly until the world cannot help but reflect it outwardly. Pause for a moment. Who are you when you think of money? Are you a struggler, a worrier, a beggar at the gates of life? Or are you a vessel of abundance, a child of wealth, an heir of infinite supply? The answer determines everything. Identity creates action. Action creates habit. Habit creates destiny. But the root is always identity. There is another parable, this one from Africa. A lion cub was lost and raised among sheep. He grew up bleating, grazing, trembling at wolves. One day, an old lion found him and led him to a still pond. "Look," he said. The cub saw his reflection, powerful, regal. "You are not a sheep, you are a lion." In that moment, something awoke. The cub roared, and his life changed forever. So too with you. If you see yourself as poor, weak, small, life mirrors it. But the moment you see your true reflection, as wealth, as power, as abundance, you roar, and life responds. But how do you change identity? Through repetition with emotion, through living the new image until it feels natural, through refusing to answer to the old name. Each time you declare, "I am wealthy," you carve a new groove. Each time you act as though wealth is natural, you embody the new role. In time, it becomes effortless. You cannot live in wealth with the identity of poverty. But once you shift identity, wealth cannot stay away. Sacred practice, the identity shift. Stand before a mirror tonight. Look deeply into your eyes. Say aloud, "I am wealthy, I am abundance, I am freedom." Not as hope, but as truth. Say it until your body softens, until the words feel like they belong. Now, close your eyes. Imagine a version of yourself who already lives in wealth. See how they walk, how they speak, how they smile. Step into that self. Breathe as them. Feel as them. Then open your eyes and carry that identity into your day. Do this daily. In weeks, your self-image will shift. In months, your reality will bend. For once identity changes, destiny obeys. You do not get wealth. You become wealth. Change who you are, and the world must change with you. Chapter 12. The House of Belief. Wealth does not begin in the world. It begins in the house of belief you carry within. Every brick is a conviction. Every wall is an assumption. Every room is a story you tell about yourself and money. And you will never live in a palace outside if you dwell in a prison of belief inside. The simplest path to wealth is to renovate your inner house. Pause for a moment. Imagine walking through a house that represents your beliefs about money. What do you see? Are the walls cracked with doubt? Are the rooms small, cramped with fear? Are the doors locked, whispering that opportunities are for others but not for you? Now imagine a different house, spacious, light-filled, adorned with treasures. Each room hums with ease, freedom, and joy. Opportunities walk through its doors uninvited because the doors are always open. This is the house of abundant belief. You cannot live in both at once. You must choose which house is yours. Belief is not wish. Belief is conviction accepted so deeply that your subconscious treats it as fact. And the subconscious, being the builder of reality, constructs your outer life to match. If you believe money is scarce, life will mirror scarcity. If you believe I am unlucky, luck will pass you by. If you believe wealth flows to me, opportunities arrive. The subconscious does not argue. It builds, it decorates, it expands the house according to the blueprint of belief. There is a parable from the Middle East. A king asked 3 builders to construct homes for his subjects. To the first, he handed a blueprint labeled scarcity. That builder used weak wood, thin walls, and poor design. The house crumbled in storms. To the second, he handed a blueprint labeled struggle. That builder worked tirelessly, laying bricks with sweat, yet the house remained small, confining, unsatisfying. To the third, he handed a blueprint labeled abundance. That builder raised high ceilings, wide halls, gardens that overflowed. The house became a palace, and all who entered prospered. The king revealed the truth. The builders were not external. They were the people themselves. Each had constructed his own home from the blueprint of his beliefs. So too are you building your house daily. The question is, which blueprint are you using? Think of a child raised to believe wealth is dangerous. Perhaps they heard their parents fight over money, saw families torn apart, or absorbed the phrase, "Rich people are greedy." That child carries those bricks into adulthood, building a house where money feels unsafe. And no matter how hard they try, they unconsciously push wealth away. Another child may grow up hearing, "Money comes easily, we are always provided for." That child builds a house of openness. Even in challenges, they attract opportunities because their foundation is solid. Beliefs are not destiny, but they are architecture. If you do not consciously renovate, you will live in a house built by others, parents, teachers, culture. The simplest path is to become the master architect of your own belief. Now let us explore this with a modern example. A woman named Leah struggled for years despite working hard. She realized one day that her inner belief whispered, "I'm not the kind of person who gets rich." It was a phrase she had absorbed from her family. Once she saw it, she decided to rebuild. She began affirming daily, "I am worthy of wealth. I belong to abundance." She visualized herself living in a home filled with light and freedom. At first, the old house resisted. Doubt cracked the walls, but she persisted, laying brick upon brick of new belief. Within months, her behavior shifted. She spoke with more confidence, pursued opportunities she once ignored, and carried herself differently. Within years, her outer world mirrored the new house she had built within. Beliefs do not change overnight. They shift brick by brick, word by word, image by image. Yet once the foundation is set, the house stands unshakable. This is why Neville Goddard emphasized the law of assumption. Assume the state of wealth, believe it as fact, and the world conforms. Not because of luck, but because your inner house becomes the only blueprint reality can follow. But here lies the trap. Many try to decorate the outside while leaving the inside in ruins. They chase jobs, strategies, investments, hoping to look wealthy, while inwardly living in cramped beliefs. The outer cannot stand for long if the inner is weak. The house collapses. The simplest path demands that you rebuild from within first. Once the house of belief is secure, the outer decorations come naturally. Pause and reflect. What is the house of belief you live in today? Is it built on "I can't" or on "I can"? On "I never have enough" or on "I always overflow"? On "wealth is for others" or on "I am wealth itself"? The outer cannot be greater than the inner. To live richly outside, you must first dwell richly within. There is a story told of a monk who asked his students to bring bowls to a fountain. Some brought tiny cups, some brought buckets, some brought barrels. The fountain flowed equally, but each received only according to the size of their vessel. The monk said, "The fountain is life. The vessel is belief. You will never receive beyond the size of your belief." So too with wealth. The universe flows endlessly, but your belief determines how much you can hold. Sacred practice, renovating the house. Tonight, take a notebook. At the top, write, "My current house of belief." Beneath it, list every belief you hold about money. Be honest. "I must work hard for money. I never get ahead. Money is scarce." These are the bricks of your current house. Now, draw a line. Write, "My new house of belief." Beneath it, write empowering truths. "Money flows easily. I am worthy of wealth. Abundance is natural to me." These are the new bricks. Close your eyes and imagine walking through your new house. See wide halls filled with light. Feel the safety, the space, the joy. Repeat daily, "This is my house now." Over weeks, the old house will crumble and the new one will rise. And as it rises within, your outer world will follow. Wealth is not chance. It is architecture. You are the builder, and the house you live in is made of your beliefs. Chapter 13. The Wealth of Attention. What you attend to multiplies. Where your gaze rests, life grows. Attention is the sunlight of consciousness, and whatever you shine it upon expands. The simplest path to wealth is to master your attention. Wealth is not first about effort, it is about focus. Most people scatter their attention across fears, distractions, regrets. They feed weeds with the sunlight of their awareness, then wonder why their gardens feel overrun. Attention is energy, and energy is wealth. Wherever it flows, abundance blooms, or barrenness deepens. Pause and ask yourself, where does your attention live most of the day? On bills or on opportunities? On lack or on gratitude? On what is wrong or on what is possible? Your answer reveals your harvest. There is a story from Zen tradition. A young student asked his master, "Why does my life feel empty? I study, I work, I strive, yet I feel no abundance." The master handed him a bowl and said, "Fill it with water, but do not spill a single drop." The student carried it carefully across the courtyard, eyes fixed on the bowl. When he returned, the master asked, "Did you see the garden you walked through?" The student shook his head. "I saw only the water." The master nodded. This is why your life feels empty. You give all your attention to survival, to what you fear spilling, and so you miss the beauty of the garden. Shift your gaze, and abundance will appear. Attention decides the reality you see. Modern psychology confirms this. The reticular activating system in the brain filters millions of pieces of information and highlights what matches your focus. If you fix your attention on lack, your brain notices only lack. If you fix it on abundance, opportunities suddenly appear that were always there but unseen. Wealth, then, is not only created, it is noticed, it is perceived, it is received through attention. Let us make this practical. A man may say, "There are no opportunities," yet around him dozens of chances pass daily. He simply does not notice them, for his attention is blind. Another man, attuned to wealth, sees openings everywhere, in conversations, in chance meetings, in ideas. The difference is not reality. The difference is attention. This is why gratitude is so powerful. It trains attention. Each time you count blessings, you redirect your gaze to wealth already present. And where attention goes, energy flows, and life multiplies. Let me share a modern story. A woman named Sophia lived in constant complaint. She often said, "Nothing good ever happens for me." Her attention was glued to problems, and indeed, her life seemed filled with them. One day, she decided to keep a gratitude journal. Reluctantly, she wrote 3 things each night she was thankful for. At first, they were small: a warm meal, a kind smile, a sunny day. But as weeks passed, something changed. She began noticing blessings during the day, eager to record them at night. Soon, opportunities that had always been present came into focus. A neighbor introduced her to a business contact. A small freelance job appeared. Within a year, her income had doubled, she said later. "Wealth was always there, I just wasn't looking." Attention is wealth's first magnet. But here lies the challenge. The modern world is built to steal attention. Notifications, news, endless chatter, all conspire to scatter your focus. And when your attention is scattered, so is your energy. A scattered life cannot create concentrated wealth. The simplest path requires reclaiming your gaze, to choose consciously where you place the sunlight of your awareness, to withdraw it from weeds and offer it to roses. There is another parable, this one from the desert mystics. A traveler asked a sage, "Why do some men prosper while others perish in the same land?" The sage pointed to 2 shepherds. One stared constantly at wolves, terrified of attack. The other kept his gaze on the sheep, guiding them to pasture. "Both face wolves," said the sage, "but one feeds fear, the other feeds flock. Attention decides their fate. So it is with money. Focus on fear, and fear multiplies. Focus on wealth, and wealth grows." Pause now and ask yourself, what do you water daily with your attention? Do you replay old failures? Do you rehearse fears of the future? Or do you attend to visions of abundance, to seeds of opportunity, to gratitude for what already flows? You cannot serve 2 gardens. One must wither, one must bloom. Consider a simple yet profound practice. Each time you catch yourself saying, "I can't," pause and redirect, "What if I can?" Each time you dwell on lack, redirect to gratitude. "What do I have now that proves abundance is already here?" Each small shift reclaims attention from weeds and offers it to roses. Over time, the garden transforms. Attention is also persistence, not only glancing once at wealth, but dwelling on it. This is why vision boards, affirmations, and meditations work. They keep attention steady. And steady attention is like sunlight. Left long enough, it turns a seed into a forest. Sacred practice, the wealth gaze. Each morning, before entering the noise of the day, choose one symbol of wealth to fix your attention on. It may be a number written on a paper, a picture of your dream home, or even a single word like abundance. Place it where you will see it often. Spend 3 minutes gazing at it, breathing slowly, repeating softly. Where attention goes, wealth grows. Throughout the day, whenever fear or distraction arises, return your gaze inwardly to that symbol. Anchor your attention on wealth, not lack. Do this daily. Over time, your brain will filter reality differently. You will notice opportunities, synchronicities, openings. What you water will bloom. Attention is sunlight. The simplest path is to shine it where you wish wealth to grow. Chapter 14. The Throne of Certainty. Wealth does not bow to hesitation. It does not serve doubt. It obeys certainty. The simplest path to wealth is not to beg, not to hope, not even to wish, but to know. Certainty is the throne upon which wealth rests. When you sit upon it, reality bends. When you waver, the mirror wavers too. This is why so many desires remain unfulfilled, not because the law fails, but because the seeker doubts. The universe is precise. It reflects conviction, not confusion. If you say, "I hope to be wealthy," the mirror shows only hope. If you declare, "I know I am wealthy," the mirror rearranges itself until the knowing becomes flesh. Pause and feel this difference in your body. Say quietly to yourself, "I hope for wealth." Notice the emptiness, the distance. Now say, "I am wealthy. It is already mine." Feel the shift, the grounding, the power. That shift is certainty. There is a story from the desert tribes. A group of wanderers prayed for water. Some begged the skies, "Please send rain." Days passed, nothing came. But one man prayed differently. He knelt and thanked the heavens as though rain already soaked his skin. He lifted his face and whispered, "I feel the water. I hear the streams. I see the earth drinking deeply." The others mocked him. But soon clouds gathered and rain poured. The man smiled, not in surprise, but in recognition. He had not hoped, he had known. This is the law. Certainty calls forth what doubt delays. In every tradition, this truth is whispered. Jesus said, "When you pray, believe you have already received, and it will be yours." Neville Goddard echoed, "Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled." Hermetic teachers declared, "All form follows mind. Certainty is not arrogance, it is alignment with law." But here lies the obstacle. The mind is addicted to evidence. It demands to see before it believes. Yet the law requires the reverse. Believe before you see. Evidence follows certainty, never precedes it. Think of planting a seed. You do not dig it up daily to check if it grows. You plant, water, and know it will rise. That knowing is certainty. If you doubt and dig, you kill the seed. If you trust and wait, the harvest comes. Wealth is no different. You plant with imagination, you water with gratitude, you harvest with certainty. Let me share a modern example. A young artist named Maya longed to live from her work. For years she said, "I hope one day I can." But nothing shifted. Then she discovered the teaching of certainty. She decided to test it. Each morning she declared, "I am a full-time artist. My work sustains me." At first nothing had changed, but she persisted. She began painting as though she were already successful. She spoke with confidence, raised her prices, treated her art as valuable. Within months, commissions multiplied. Within 2 years, she lived entirely from her art. Maya later said, "The moment I stopped hoping and started knowing, the world caught up." Certainty is not about forcing, it is about resting. It is the quiet seat of knowing, unshaken by appearances. When bills arrive, certainty whispers, "I am still provided for." When delays come, certainty says, "The outcome is already mine." This is not denial, it is dominion. Consider the story of a king and 2 servants. The first servant begged daily, "Please give me gold if you will." The king, though generous, grew weary of his uncertainty and gave him only scraps. The second servant bowed once and said, "Thank you for the gold you have already given." Though he had not yet received, his certainty honored the king's word. Moved, the king ordered his treasurers to fill his coffers. So it is with the universe. Doubt insults the law, certainty honors it. Pause now. What is your throne? Do you sit upon certainty, or do you kneel in doubt? Do you declare wealth as yours, or do you wait timidly for permission? The simplest path requires courage, the courage to claim what is already yours by law. Certainty also shapes action. When you know the outcome, you act differently. A person who knows they are wealthy makes decisions with calm, with generosity, with vision. A person who doubts, hesitates, delays, sabotages. The outer difference begins with the inner throne. There is another parable, this one from the east. A merchant sought treasure in the mountains. He carried maps, but doubted their accuracy. Every mile he turned back, questioning, starting again. Years passed, and he found nothing. Another merchant with the same map trusted fully. He walked steadily, never doubting. Within weeks, he reached the treasure. Both had the same tools, only one had certainty. So too with you. Knowledge alone is not enough. Strategies alone are not enough. Certainty is the key that unlocks the treasure. Sacred practice, sitting on the throne. Tonight, sit in silence. Close your eyes and imagine a great throne of gold. Upon it is engraved the word certainty. Now, see yourself approaching. At first, you may feel unworthy. Doubt may whisper, "Not yet, not you." Ignore it. Sit down. Feel the weight of certainty beneath you. Whisper softly, "I know I am wealthy. It is already done." Breathe into this knowing. See your life unfolding, not in hope, not in wish, but in certainty. Smile as though it is already yours. Stay until the feeling grows strong. Do this daily. Soon, certainty will no longer be a practice. It will be your natural seat, and from that throne, wealth cannot help but bow. Wealth does not come to those who beg. It comes to those who know. And the throne of certainty is already waiting for you. Conclusion: the simplest path revealed. From the very beginning, You were not wandering in a maze. You were walking the straight road, though hidden by mist. Wealth was never outside, never in banks or markets or coins. It was always within, waiting for you to see, to claim, to live. The simplest path has been revealed. Faith, identity, belief, language, attention, certainty. Each chapter, each teaching, a stepping stone, guiding you back to the treasure you already carry. Now pause. Feel this truth. You are not poor. You are not lacking. You are not small. You are a temple of infinite supply. The same force that spins galaxies lives in you. The same law that grows forests, that pulls tides, that ignites suns, also orchestrates your wealth. You are not separate from it. You are it. The simplest path was never about chasing, never about striving, never about endless effort. It was about remembering who you are, remembering the laws that govern creation, remembering the power of your faith, the authority of your words, the throne of your certainty. Consider the journey we have taken. You learned that faith is the currency of wealth, invisible but supreme, the first down payment on every fortune. You saw that agreements shape destiny, and that the contracts you unconsciously signed can be rewritten with abundance. You discovered that circulation keeps money alive, just as rivers keep water pure. You saw that identity sets the thermostat of your financial life, and until you shift self-concept, nothing changes. You realized that language is a spell, and the words you speak summon either lack or wealth. You walked through the house of belief, learning to renovate from scarcity to abundance. You felt the sunlight of attention and saw that whatever you gaze upon multiplies. And finally, you ascended to the throne of certainty, the place from which reality itself obeys. This is the simplest path, not complicated systems, not endless striving, but inner mastery. There is a parable that completes the circle. A seeker traveled far across mountains and seas, searching for the treasure of wealth. He met teachers, gathered maps, sought advice, but the treasure always seemed beyond reach. At last, weary and broken, he returned home. There, beneath the floorboards of his small house, he found a chest of gold. Tears filled his eyes. The treasure had been beneath him all along. So too with you. The wealth you seek is not in distant lands. It is beneath the floorboards of your own mind, waiting for you to look inward. The simplest path is not outward searching, but inward discovery. Now, listen closely. You are at a threshold. You can return to the old path, chasing, doubting, hoping. Or you can step onto the simplest path today. The choice is not made tomorrow. It is made now with your next thought, your next word, your next assumption. Will you speak lack or speak abundance? Will you see yourself as small or as wealth itself? Will you hope timidly or will you know with certainty? Every decision is a fork. Every moment is a door. The simplest path is to choose abundance again and again until it is natural. There is one more practice, the final key. Sacred practice, the eternal flame. Close your eyes. Imagine before you a great flame, eternal and bright. This flame is wealth itself, infinite, unending. Now see yourself taking a small candle from your heart and lighting it at this flame. Watch as your candle burns with the same fire, equally bright. Understand this. Your wealth is not borrowed, not separate, not fragile. It is the same eternal flame. You carry it now, and it cannot be extinguished. Each morning, recall this flame. Each night, return to it. Say aloud, I am wealth, I am abundance, the flame is in me. Let this be your final contract, your final certainty. And so the journey closes, not with an ending, but with an awakening. You are wealth, you are the law, you are the treasure. The simplest path was never about finding it, but about remembering. If what you have heard has stirred something deep within, if it has awakened a hidden memory of who you truly are, let this not be the end, but the beginning. Step forward, live these truths. Speak them, practice them. Watch as your life transforms into the reflection of your certainty. And if this journey has spoken to you, I invite you to join this circle of light. Like this video if it resonates. Leave a comment below sharing where you are listening from and what treasure you have rediscovered within. And subscribe so that you may walk with us on many more sacred journeys. For the simplest path does not end here. It continues with every breath, every choice, every step. And as you walk it, you will find the treasure was always yours.